Welcome back to the beginning of a new week. I am out in the garden and honestly, I haven't done much out here. However, in the house, I have made what we're calling bertado, which is the Australian version of slice. However, we decided we didn't like the name slice, so we've named it bertado, which is a combination or a hybrid between a zucchini bread and a frittata. It's actually really good, so if you haven't made it, I definitely suggest it. I'm also making tons of sourdough crackers because I'm actually signed up as a reviewer for products on Amazon. And one of the products that I recently ordered was a San Francisco style sourdough starter. And since I am a native of the San Francisco Bay Area, I had high expectations of this product, which did not meet expectations. But I now have tons of sourdough discard, which I'm using for a bunch of other recipes, so it's not that bad. I think I mentioned last week that Francis and I went to a local nursery, Shrive, to check out their fall open house thing, and we fell in love with a olive tree, which we have planned to put out in the garden out there. We did have the guy come and check out the space, and then he referred us to somebody else who needs to come and take out the trees that are already there. So it's a whole domino effect. And we are hoping to get that done as soon as possible, but it is in progress. Things happening in the garden. I've decided that this past year I did a lot of interplanting, which is basically where like every section had kind of a mix of things. And it made cleanup very, very difficult for me. So for 2026, one of the changes I'm making is that each of these very, very, very long beds is going to be broken down into smaller beds of 150 centimeters by 100 centimeters. And I'm repositioning the arches to basically be one bed. So I have like one bed, one bed, one bed, one bed, another bed, and the leftovers, which in this bed's case is all over here, is going to be for perennials. Plus, I've decided that some of the pathways that I don't use as often are also being dedicated to perennials. So over here, I planted something. I planted something in the corner. I've started doing little tags, lovage. So I've planted lovage here, which grows to be a big bushy thing that tastes like celery / cilantro, mainly celery. That's going to grow there. Plus I have all the sorrel. So green sorrel, red vein sorrel, more red vein sorrel is all along here. And I prepped and planted my skirt here, which are like roots that are kind of a combination of carrot and parsnip. So they're thinner than carrots and parsnips, but they're sweeter. And they need to be obviously dug up so that you can harvest the roots. But I've gone ahead and allocated a space for them here. I'm not sure what I'm going to put in this space. All of these rocks need to go because they were all the rocks that I actually dug up from this little spot that I tilled up. And these are Egyptian walking onions. So they produce little bulbils on the very top, and then those fall over and plant themselves. So actually, I think I saw some. If I go down in here, you can see kind of in here, there's some new growth there because the parents are all along this row here. And then as they're children spike up and turn into little like mini bulbs up here. They get heavy and they fall down. And then they plant themselves a little further on. So that's part of why they're called walking onions. But basically they plant themselves in the dirt and then root. And you get these new little sections of little bulbils that end up turning into onions. And I'll be able to harvest them eventually, just like I harvest the onions here. However, right now, for our Persephone period where things aren't really growing, we're just cutting these off as green onions, and they're super tasty. And we incorporate these into the frittatas that we make with the eggs, and they work out really well. This guy eventually needs to go, but I'll talk about that a little later. Up in the chicken area, I'm not going to go in there, but I did get around to getting up here and planting some plants. So if I zoom in, way over there, I have like the tag for a raspberry. And over here, you can also see the label for another raspberry. So I did plant some raspberries in the chicken area. I've also gone ahead and planted like some other plants along there and some other plants along the fence there. So we're getting there. One of the priorities for this week, because one of the things that I want to change is actually being able to plan out the next week. This last week, I wanted to prioritize getting things planted, getting things cleaned up. I did get some things planted and I did get some things cleaned up, but I didn't get them all done. Obviously, I didn't get around to like fixing that or anything else. However, next week is the first week that we are being threatened with frost. So my priorities for this week are definitely in this bed here. I have all of my peppers that remain from the summer season. And I do have some aubergines, eggplants as well. And I would like to try to overwinter some of these. So that basically involves digging them out of the ground, putting them into a very small container, pruning them way back. Like, it pains me every time I do it. But yeah, they have to be pruned back to basically like a tiny little stub. And then I keep them in a pot over winter, and I hope they survive. So, since I do enjoy my eggplants and my aubergines, I am planning on trying to overwinter some of these. So that is my priority for this next week. Other things that happened, I'll throw in some pictures of the shelves that we ordered for the attic. That's a project that's happening since our battery solar installation was rejected by the government here. We're having to kind of like scramble to redecide what we're going to do there. And part of that is moving a bunch of stuff up in the attic. And I'm not going to walk all the way down there, but I will come out here and kind of try to zoom in for y'all. But basically way down there at the other end of the orchard, we have this giant willow tree, and I've definitely done some pruning there. So maybe in the future I'll go ahead and show that. But my one of my other goals at this time of year is to go around the perimeter here and pull back the hedgerow that tends to grow. So like here you don't see it so much, but here you start to see it more. And definitely along the south, we have a very healthy hedgerow. So I need to get out there and basically pull it away from the fence line, because the neighbors, being agricultural corn farmers, really could care less about the fence line. They really do not care. And Francis and I spent a lot of time redoing the fence, especially along here, like basically around the potager. We redid all of these piquets and wire, and we don't want the hedgerow growing into those additions and basically ruining all the work we did. So one of the things that I do every year, at least twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring, is I go around on the other side and I will pull back all of the brambles along the hedge, and yeah, try to make it nicer for our side. So I haven't done way down there yet. This will be the first year that I'm doing that. So there's a lot of work that needs to happen, and I've started with pruning this giant tree there, and just taking it back to the front fence line and making sure that that's easier to prune when I finally get on the other side and I'm actually like raking and cutting it back. So yeah, that's it, I think, for this week. Things to come, like I say, I still need to fix this, which isn't so urgent now because it's cold, and the bugs that bother the brassicas that I've planted aren't really prevalent this time of year. So we can kind of take a look, and you can see I have like the cabbages, and I have some of my I think these are all Brussels sprouts. Some of the things didn't make it. Like I know I planted some things here and some things here, which have obviously died. But eventually I will get out to fix this whole area. I still need to harvest all of the beans here. So seeing as we're expecting a frost this week for the first time, my priority is, like I say, harvesting all of my frost-sensitive vegetables, potentially deciding which ones of these plants I want to try to overwinter. I need to protect my one of my passion fruit plants, which are over there, and I have another passion fruit plant over there, and I need to think about potentially protecting the citrus in my chicken area. So yeah, this week is all about protecting things that I want to keep for next year. And then moving forward in the winter, eventually I'll get around to pruning the orchard. If I zoom in on it, you can see that a lot of the trees have lost their branches, but like down there, you can see that like my apples and pears still have plenty of leaves on them. So I basically need to wait for them to shed all of their leaves, and then there's a lot of work that needs to be done on those to prepare them for next spring. And yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. Other things are basically, I'm expecting like the asparagus to die down, and I'll have to cut them back. I'm expecting the zucchini to die down. I'll have to cut them back. So unfortunately, the things that are coming are basically a lot of my like warm season plants are going to die because it's just going to get way too cold, and it's going to be a lot of cleanup. So that's what's in store for me. Everything else is looking good. The garlic that I interplanted here is looking really good. I have the garlic up there that's looking really good. The shallots did start, if I zoom in, the shallots did start to come in here, so that's awesome. They were a little late coming in here, but you can see that I do have some that also came in on this bed here. So For us, we really like our shallots and our garlic, and that's awesome. One thing that I'm watching are these leeks. So if I come in here, you can see that we are getting some rust on some of these. So I will go and like try to prune off the rusty bits to try to keep the rest of the leeks pretty good. And we have a bunch of baby leeks over here. Like there's baby leeks there, and there's some that I kind of dug up and replanted as I was putting the shallots in. And we have a few more adult leeks there. So yeah, things are happening. I still need to do a lot more cleanup of, you know, all the miscellaneous piles that I've created, but overall, it is what it is. I'm getting there. I'm definitely taking my time. It's cold and kind of wet and miserable, but yeah, it's coming along. And I think that is basically it for this week. I will leave you with Mr. B, who's doing his dog thing. And we'll see you next week. I hope you had a good one. Bye.